Time for another Auburn Blitz podcast here on this Thursday morning. Glad all of you joined us out there, wherever you are. Hopefully getting back to normal. Never changed for us really up here. Some of you got, man, I tell you, it was wild to see Pensacola, Florida with 11 inches of snow. Man, that is some wild stuff, dude. And like my buddies in Venice, Randy, you know, we go down there and fish all the time. I couldn't believe that is the hottest place on earth, by the way. Like it's hell. It's close to hell in July. I mean, if there's anywhere on the planet that could get anywhere a semblance, a taste of what it would be like the heat of hell, it's Venice in July and August. And to see about 5 inches of snow on the ground at the marina down there, that's just wild, dude.
New Orleans too. You see everybody out there on Bourbon Street, you know, having snow fights, and it's a wild time. I mean, it is global warming, my friend.
Oh yeah, it's best. So much global warming going out there. We had a once in a generation 125-year snowstorm on the Gulf. We're glad everybody's joined us here. We're not here to talk about weather. We're here to talk about Auburn and a lot of other stuff this morning. We got some crazy stuff that really happened yesterday. But our podcast is brought to you by Sensagreen for air that is cool and clean, and the air outside is cool and clean. Call on Sensagreen, your carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. And Wade is part of our group, and we'll have Wade on Friday on the Auburn Blitz show. So looking forward to having him back. Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm located in Birmingham that really specializes in educational projects. If you're building a new school, thinking about renovating your school, they're the consulting firm to contact. They will take you from the pre-construction process all the way to when you get the keys to the finished product. So don't try to manage that yourself. Don't try to manage that internally. Trust me, I can speak from personal experience. It is a lifesaver to have somebody to handle that knows the language and knows how to handle construction projects. Call on Scout Program Management. We'll also get to our other partners here a little bit later this morning in the program. Wild night of basketball here in the SEC. Kind of start right there as Auburn is off, obviously, Randy. But last night, all three games were unbelievable. Florida hung on the road, 70-69 over South Carolina. Georgia fell to Arkansas last night. Arkansas finally got their first win in SEC play under John Calipari, and I didn't think he wanted to give the mic up after the game. He was so ecstatic they got a win. They were like, okay, coach, we got to go. And he kept talking, and they're like, all right, we're just going to let him talk. And then Texas A&M, man, that's the biggest flurry of a comeback. Ole Miss was like up 8 with a minute and a half or 2 minutes to go, and you're like, that game's over. And then you blink, and Texas A&M comes down and hits a 3, and then Ole Miss has one other shot, and they miss it, and they lose the game. And it's like, man. So it is crazy in this league. 3 unbelievable games last night in the SEC.
South Carolina is where I'll start, Brett. Had every opportunity in the world to get a massive win for them. You know, they're right there on the cusp of making it into the tournament.
They're the best 0-6 team in the country.
Yeah, and South Carolina, you know, from a talent standpoint, you don't feel like that. But I mean, really, they have just not been able to get over the hump in any of these games.
Right.
And you sense that if they just were able to close some of them out, they'd probably be 500 and be right there on the cusp of making the tournament. But you look down and you got the record that you got. You are who you are. And Florida sneaks by. But that's how tough the road can be. You can be on the road against a team that you look down and you say, man, we should never lose this game. Auburn did the same against South Carolina, if you remember. And then you look down and you're like, man, we're in a dogfight. And how in the world has this team not won any ball games yet? And they look like a tournament team when you're watching them out here. But the SEC is that tough, especially being on the road, Brett. You lose night in and night out. And if you're able to get over the hump 75 to 80% of the time, you've actually proven yourself throughout the season. And so far, Auburn, even without Janai Broom's been able to do that.
Well, you break it down in thirds. I mean, you got 18 games. You look at the first 6. Auburn will play their 6th game on Saturday against a very good Tennessee team. If they're able to win that game at home, they'll have navigated that first third 6-0, undefeated. And they will be the only team to have done that if they're able to pull that off. Looking at the updated standings, Alabama is 5-1. now. Missouri, Florida, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Ole Miss, all 4-2. Kentucky's 3-2. Mississippi State and Vanderbilt are 3-3. Georgia, Texas are 2-4. Oklahoma, LSU, Arkansas. Oklahoma, LSU are 1-4. Arkansas 1-5, and South Carolina 0-6. So if you're 0-6, you have dug yourself a monstrous hole in this league, and you're probably not ever going to get back to the surface. So you're right. I mean, they've been close. They've been right there.
How many times, Brett? I mean, at least more than half of their games
I'll look back
been in it.
Well, they lose to Florida 70-69. They lose to Oklahoma 82-62. They lose to Vanderbilt 66-63. They lose to Auburn 66-63. Alabama
beat 3 games they could have won.
Yeah, Alabama beat them by 20.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State beat them by 35. So really, just over the last 4 games were winnable for them. And the first 2, they kind of got their doors blown off, but they've come back around. And I think you got to look at again how you focus the rest of the season. I mean, this was a team last year at this time was the number 1 team in the league. They came into Auburn ranked number 1 in the conference, and Auburn beat them by 40, and it kind of fell apart for them after that. But right now they're sitting at 0-6. They didn't win a single game in the first third of the season. So that's a little disheartening. And, it's not ever easier in this league. It doesn't matter who you're playing. So, but if you look at it right now, it's who we thought it would be. Auburn and Alabama at the top. Missouri's been a surprise. Florida is Jekyll and Hyde. They can win and they can lose. I think Ole Miss falls in that category as well. They had a game. They're going to regret that one last night. They had one slip away at home, and those are really tough. Those are magnified. If you lose that one on the road like that, yeah, it still hurts, but you're like, okay, it's the road. But you lose one like that at home, man, it sucks, and it'll probably come back to haunt Ole Miss. And then you got Tennessee, who we'll see this weekend. They're up and down too. They're a little inconsistent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm excited for the game on Saturday for Auburn. Is a much needed week rest for our team, not just Janai Broome, but our team. Bruce Pearl said that the other day, and maybe we see him back Saturday. We don't know. But if he's not 110%, like you heard Stephen Pearl say a couple of days ago, probably won't see him in the game. We're wanting him to be at 110%. And, of course, Janai Broome's going to have something to say about that. He'll let them know also if he's ready, but the medical staff will let the coaches know if he's ready too.
Well, the good thing is, like we've said all season, the schedule aligns perfectly for Auburn. You're going to get the best teams that you're going to play here in the SEC at the first part of the schedule at home, starting here with Tennessee. So if you've got to play without Janai Broome, you'd be hopeful that it wouldn't be over in Knoxville. It would be at Auburn, and that's the way it sets up. Just a couple of quick points on the overall SEC before we move on. I made a comment a little bit earlier in the week about Tennessee, and Tennessee, for whatever reason, can't run away from teams that often. They've had to fight their way back into ball games, and they did it this past Saturday against Vandy and couldn't get over the hump, and Tennessee wins that or loses that ball game by a close margin there at the end of the game, Brett. So I don't know what that tells us about Tennessee.
Right.
The inability to run away from teams and keep them at bay may tell you that there's a little bit more parity when you match them up with the rest of the league than we've seen. I think we'll know a lot more on Saturday.
Yep.
Teams like that Auburn have played at home, we've ran away from.
Have.
So that's going to be something to watch on Saturday. And back to my South Carolina comment a little bit earlier, Brett, they're over here in the SEC. And man, if I were to told you that they'd have won those 3 basketball games that they've been close in, they could be right there on the cusp of the NCAA. That is how hard this league is, man.
Well, you say it about baseball all the time about it's just everybody's so good. It's just if you're not quite up to the upper echelon, you can look down and you're at the bottom. That's how close it is.
Because my eye test watching Auburn play South Carolina, physical in the post,
pretty
physical
even.
On the perimeter,
pretty even that night.
It was very even. I didn't think we played all that poorly. I mean, we missed some shots, but we didn't play any worse than we have a few other games. My point is they've been equal to us. Now, if we played our best, I think we'd win by 12
and I
to
think if we
15
played them
points.
at home,
But
we'd blow
but you're
out.
not going to play your best every night, and when you don't against any team in the SEC, even when they're 0-6, you can lose it in this conference. It's just a testament to how tough this top conference is. But we got to get over the hump, Brett, including Auburn. We need to win a national championship out of this conference.
Can we
soon.
please win this?
Yes.
I mean, look, I know I ask for a lot sometimes, but man, we've been through hell. Let me just go ahead and say that. I'm gonna go ahead and just, can we just please, can we get to the mountaintop? That would be outstanding in basketball. I think we'd celebrate that as much as anything. I mean, it's just to know that we've never really had a program outside of the last really 10 years that's consistent, to really take this sport serious like we have now with the Bruce Pearl would be phenomenal, really, to get to the top of the mountain. All right, here's a crazy stat from last night. Georgia, Ole Miss, and South Carolina led for 119 minutes and 14 seconds of 120 minutes of game time combined, and they both went 0-3, and they all three lost. How about that? They combined for 119 minutes and 14 seconds out of 120 minutes. The three of them combined, that's how long they led in the game. All three of them lost.
That is a wild stat, but it's also a stat that Auburn needs to look at closely, Brett, because these road games,
absolutely,
how often have we been out to 16, 18-point leads?
Oh, man.
And you look down, you're up 3, and you got to make free throws at the end. And what the hell happened? How did we let them back in this? It may just be
what happened.
It may just be part of what oh gosh, we were running away from them early.
That's right. But they had a superstar player that helped him get back in the game.
Well, you got to find your way to keep the foot on the pedal. And Auburn, at least playing in the SEC, you're going to be ready for that as tournament time comes in. But it's these road games, Brett. You get by them. You just have to walk away. I don't care if you win 66 to 63 against South Carolina and you go there 0-6, and how did they play us that well? Man, you just got to go home and thank your lucky stars you got out alive in some of these road games in the SEC.
All right, I want to shift over. We got a lot to talk about. I know we want to talk about some recruiting. Faith's going to jump on after you get off, Randy. We're going to preview some more of those top players coming in, the juniors, the 26 class, the junior day that'll be happening also on Saturday. I know the portal news is crazier than we talked about that a little bit yesterday, but I want to talk about this rating stuff. You and I have been waiting on this. You sent it over. I was looking at it. The ironic thing was I was at dinner last night and I was searching and I couldn't find it. And then you sent it to me on the way out. And I'm like, dadgummit, there it is. And I've been looking for this for 2 days. And there's some crazy stats, but we finally got our answer. It was a low turnout. It was not watched comparable to other national championship games. 22.1 million viewers. Here's some stats. Extremely low rating compared to expectations for those two teams. Since the BCS national title game in 1998, this comes in as the 23rd highest rated out of 27 televised title games. Here are the other ones that are lower than them. I'm a little shocked by some of these. The 2001 Miami-Nebraska game had 21.6 million viewers. The 04 USC-Oklahoma game, the game we should have been in, okay, got 21.4 million. The 2020 Alabama-Ohio State game, the COVID year, got 18.6 million. I thought that thing would be out the roof. Everybody was inside twiddling their thumbs in the COVID year. I figured that thing had been skyrocketed. And 17.2 million for the 2022 Georgia TCU game, which was horrible. I mean, like, everybody knew that game. Like, I forget about how bad that game was because it was over at kickoff. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody get bludgeoned like that. That was a massacre. Like, the TCU fans sitting in the stands were going, we wanted to get here, but I don't want to see this shit no more. I got to go. We need to just quit playing football. That's how bad we played in that game.
We hadn't really talked about them since, have we? I mean,
just obliterated.
That's the last real solid combo we've had on TCU being in the mix for a championship, unless I'm missing something since
They
then.
stripped them of everything they had and everything they owned.
All their dignity, but $22 million with Ohio State taking on Notre Dame is a little surprising. That's two massive blue bloods, but part of the problem is not a team in the SEC in it. How much? Well, you've got some of those others that are those bottom dwellers that did have SEC teams in it, but the game was run away with by one or the other team. So I don't know. I don't know if it has that much to do with the playoff. I'd be interested. I don't have a real good opinion on this. Do you think it has something to do with the 12-team playoff? Do you think it has something to do with so many options when you turn it to a 12-team playoff to get you the college football that you desire? Or do you feel like that it's part of the overall dynamic of college football, the portal, the NIL, and everybody kind of tuning out on it?
Well, I want to read some of the comments from that post you sent me. And I want you to see and these are fans. These are college fans. I mean, I don't know any of them, but these are people that chimed in. One person said inaugural events that went on all day, and people were flipping back and forth and watching that.
Big deal.
Absolutely. Almost no promotion. I told you. Did you see any promotion?
I don't watch TV though.
But but still.
Here's the problem with that, Brett.
But you still would see some things on social media.
Yeah, social media.
I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything about it.
But 12 to 15 years ago, we're all on TV monitors all day, and so when you just get bombarded with promos, it's a different day and age.
I do think that the algorithm on our social media pages with all the sports that we have, we would have seen some stuff.
You would think.
I didn't see anything, like nothing, like no scrolling anywhere. I didn't see anything on YouTube. I'm on YouTube all the time now. I'm out promoting and I'm working our stuff all day pretty much now, looking at things. I didn't see anything about it. Nothing. So this guy said this is what he's listing. Monday night's awful. Should do a Saturday night. Carve out time, not competing against the NFL. If two of the biggest brands in college football playing each other resulted in lackluster ratings, then they have a problem. You and I said that. These are not two. This isn't TCU and SMU playing. This is Ohio State and, Notre Dame, maybe the biggest brand ever in college football. Nobody has more clout probably internationally than Notre Dame. All right, and that was Christopher. I'm going to give some creed to who said this. That was Christopher Galloway. Don't know who the heck he is. He's just commenting on here. Here's Tim Junis. Again, somebody just commenting. No SEC. The North doesn't care about college football nearly as much as the South does. I'm no SEC fan, but it's reality. Is that true? You think that has something to do with it?
I think it has something to do with it, but you have to go back to those other games that were less, and they had some SEC teams in those games. So I don't think that that's the full story. I do think more eyes would have been there if Alabama would have been in it with Ohio State. But you go back to that COVID year where you go, why in the world would the Alabama-Ohio State game not be one that gets a 30 million viewership? I don't know why. I don't think it's not. It would be the answer that I would give if you wouldn't have given out all those other games that were less.
All right, somehow shorten the process by a week and have the game on a Saturday evening, 7 p.m. solves the problems. How about the ceiling for college football is not nearly as high as it should be because the game is showed on cable versus regular TV because the Super Bowl garners 100 million viewers. College football has been topping out in the 30s for a long time. And there is a legit argument there too, I think. I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at. Here's a guy that says because it's no longer college football. It's minor league professional football. The finality of bowl games and placing 10 teams on huge stages is where it's at. Again, I think people are getting turned off. And I know that, we're going to talk a little bit about this portal situation, which is wild too. But I think just the whole gist in the field around college football right now and the indecisiveness and not knowing what's going to happen from week to week and not having a dog in the fight. I also remember seeing somebody make a comment. I don't have it saved on here, but they said something about believe it or not, not everybody goes to college, and all of those that go to college don't necessarily have a great football program. So it's not like there's this rabid, massive group of people in the country that are just stammering for college football. I mean, maybe the ceiling is like in the 30s, the 35, 36 million. That's the highest it's ever been for a national championship game since they've been keeping up with the ratings. So I don't know. I mean, is that some truth? I mean, I think all of these things that are being said are valid.
Well, I don't know if there is an answer for any of it. I do want to talk about the portal for a couple minutes before I jump off, but I'll give one more take on this, Brett. I like the playoffs. I like the
playoffs too.
I like the idea of having it. Look, I'm an Auburn fan. I would love to see us in it. Maybe not every year, but every third year. Something where you reasonably, as an Auburn fan with a top 15 program, historically is in something as high as 12 teams. And I think it'll end up being 16 teams just to clean up some things. But so I'm not overly concerned about these ratings. I think there's more eyeballs also on social media, and you've got to look at that now. Now, I'm not saying that you don't pay attention to what's being said, but man, the talking heads like Nick Saban and everyone else that has been on here with the Corsos and the rest of the bunch talking, there's a lot of eyeballs that go to that, and they're not necessarily just on TV. They're on posts like what we're working on with some of our stuff, just cut and paste posts, and got to take all of that in consideration that you didn't have to 15 years ago. Bro.
Well, I think maybe that's counted.
All that in, but I think that it's big. I think
that's got to be getting counted. That's got to be getting counted because it's ESPN. They count their streams. I mean, if you're streaming it, they're counting those numbers.
Streaming the game, exactly. But if you're watching conversations revolving around college football and these teams, I can't imagine those numbers aren't up drastically now in the day of social media, whereas all you used to could do is just go to ESPN and watch SportsCenter or whatever you're going to watch. Now, where do you get your information? I'll tell you where I get mine. Where do you get yours? Where do you watch communication? Do you go to your television to watch comments or from all of the talking heads that you like, or do you go to YouTube and Twitter?
Twitter usually
I'm on Twitter most of the time. Is that Twitter number in this mix?
I mean, I don't know.
I'd say there's no way that it is. Well, how they factor.
But I'm just saying, when you watch the game, they're looking at eyeballs watching the game.
The actual game, yes.
The actual game. The actual game. Look, I'm not arguing with you about the eyes watching all different types of content. That is the truth. Like, I think those are skyrocketed. I'm talking about the actual people that sat down and watched the game, and the ratings, the way they've kept up with them forever. 22.1
I just think we take in media a lot different than we did.
Oh, we do.
15 years
we
ago,
do, but I do think the streams are counted in those numbers for ESPN. Again, it's cable. Like, you got to have, like, we said something the other day. I mean, not everybody's, believe it or not, we kind of get in our own world. And we think, hey, this is the way everybody does it. I had working in education forever. It was amazing how many people still didn't have a computer at home. Okay. So we get caught up in thinking everybody does it the way we do it. And I think a lot of people still don't have access. That's hard to believe in 2025 as we welcome Faith in, but it's hard to believe in 2025 that people don't have access to certain things, but they don't. I mean, we had somebody call our show the other day and ask, well, where's that Auburn game being played? And I said, it's on SEC Plus or ESPN Plus. He said, well, man, I don't guess I'm going to be able to watch it. So, I mean, we have to kind of stop and think about that from a standpoint of, yes, there are so many different ways to consume media now. And I mean, you and I are in the media business, so we consume the hell out of it. But people actually sitting down, watching the game, and the way they track ratings and stuff, this one just didn't. I mean, it's 23rd out of 27.
Let me throw a quick comment out there. Faith, glad to have you, and I'm going to tee both of y'all up. And Brett, hopefully tomorrow or the next time you and I are on shows together, we can talk a little bit more about this portal. But I'll tee both of y'all up with this. This was expected. Brett and I, you and I have been talking about this for 6 months. The NCAA has no teeth anymore. When you can't win any court battles, then at a certain point, there's going to be a program out there that's going to say, why do I have to adhere to a transfer portal? And then when it goes to the court, or if there's any scare from the NCAA that it's going to the court, they're just going to throw their arms up and say, look, anybody transfer whenever you want. Now, it's no holds barred. Do I like it? No, I hate it. I think that it's terrible for the sport. I think it's worse for academics in school. Faith, you know that, just getting through with school. I mean, can you imagine having the option at 19 years old, just because you're not getting the amount of playing time that you want, to leave halfway through a semester and not think that that's not going to hurt you overall with your chances to graduate from college? No, it's terrible. And then, Brett, I have no earthly idea how this plays out with Title IX. I keep saying it, but I feel like I'm the only one saying it. How in the world the federal government's going to allow these colleges at some point in time, which is going to happen, to have a way that they're going to give more of these men advantages above the females that are competing in the same sports and have just as much invested in it as these men. I mean, I don't know how that's going to play out. So I'm going to keep saying that, but I'll tee both of y'all up, Brett. About to step aside. I want to thank Auburn Blitz here. Lee Apparel and Sign Source really growing here in the Auburn market. You can see behind me, working on this new office that we have on Opelika Road. Hope to have it open in the next couple of weeks, that you can stop by and work with Sign Source or Lee Apparel. 256-825-0197 is our phone number. From corporate apparel, customized tees, promotional products, athletic uniforms, we can help you with Lee Apparel. And then on the Sign Source side, from start to finish, design, print production, all the way to installation. We've got a brand new installation truck that takes us up to 90 feet. So we can get really any project that you need taken care of with Sign Source. 256-825-0197.
And you will not, be going up in that truck, by the way.
No. There would be no money made by Sign Source if it took me to get in that bucket.
Broke and sold on the side of the road for sale. Whoever wants the truck
really fast. So I'm thankful I got some people crazy enough to do it. Y'all have a good morning.
All right, you too, buddy.
Hi, Randy.
All right, what's up, girl?
How are you? How are you?
Just the crazy world of college. You and I were talking last night. Hey, first of all, Randy and I went through the games last night. How wild was that?
Oh my gosh.
I got to read this stat off for you that I read off to Randy to start. I mean, this is crazy. All right, there were 3 great games last night. Georgia, Ole Miss, and South Carolina led. I want you to hear this. 119 minutes and 14 seconds of 120 minutes combined, and all 3 of them lost.
Yeah, Texas A&M, they against Ole Miss, I was watching that game, and they led for the last 14 seconds of the game.
That's right.
And then they won. And I mean, I was watching that game and I was just.
I'd gotten disinterested. I'd pretty much well, that's over. Because it was like a minute and a half to go, and wasn't it like an 8-point lead?
Yeah.
And then you look up and you're like, man, they actually have the ball.
It all started with the goaltending call.
Right.
Reese texted me and was like, that's a Vegas call. That wasn't goaltending. And I was like,
well, he's a little biased, I think.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think look, again, we feel his pain as Auburn fans. We have stuff happen, but they blew that lead, and they're going to that one's going to hurt down the line. I mean, losing a game at home could have still been right there, one game out of first place. Getting a big win on the road against Alabama and then coming back and losing that game at home to Texas A&M is a very big blow. But I want to go back to what we were just talking about. We did talk about the college football ratings, which tanked. 22.1 million is ranked 23rd out of 27 since they've been ranking college football national championship games. Not good in the playoff era in the BCS. Basically, it goes back to the BCS. So that one, that's not good. And it's not like they had TCU and SMU in the game. It was Ohio State and it was Notre Dame, 2 of the biggest brands in the sport. And that I just read off a plethora of, I won't go back and do it, but a lot of people commenting on the different reasons why they think it's that way. And the number 1 and 2 reasons is timing. The timing's terrible. It's drug out too far. I mean, we're sitting here just a couple of weeks away from February, and we're still playing a college football national championship game. It was on the night of the inauguration. which you got kind of smothered with all of that. And the NFL's coming down the end of the stretch. And I mean, and really, and it was on a Monday night. So like all of those things, I know I said 2 things and I really listed like 5, but I think that's kind of the problem. There's a lot of things that created this storm that resulted in bad ratings. And then if you want to add the cable talk in there,
yeah. Like, no, I was tuned in, and I think one of the parts kind of to think about is the fact that there's a lot of people going and watching it at bars and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of changed a lot too, is that there's a lot of people going out and watching it at
Sure.
bars and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a lot of people having watch parties and all that kind of stuff. So
True.
that already kind of eliminates a lot of people. And
Good point.
I think that's one thing that really makes it, that you can really say that, oh, maybe that's why it's lower. But I also think it's lower because there's no promotion of it. And I was listening.
Hey, that was one too. Did you hear that? No
I
promotion.
was listening, and there's no promotion of it, which it's true. I know, like, everything is now turned to streaming and things like that. Like,
Right.
there's NFL games that are on Amazon Prime, and
Yeah.
everything is kind of Netflix. Even everything is changing at this rate. And you and I've talked before. I think cable is slowly dying, but it's
Right.
it's going to be gone here soon. And I mean, there's so many people that don't even have actual cable TV, and it's just becoming, I think people are just getting turned off of it.
Right.
And I mean, there's so many other things. What, you can't watch this one game? Well, I'm just going to go to the bar to watch it because it's going to be on there anyway.
Right. The Sawyer said the Southeast carries college football, and we didn't care about the game. We talked about that. We said, if there's not a team in this area in the game, if it's not a Southeastern Conference team, the South doesn't care. I mean, and
Right.
we didn't, and I didn't. I told all of y'all that. I said, really, this game and then the Notre Dame Alabama game are the 2 that stand out to me
The
that
other thing I think
I didn't really care
too-
about.
Yeah, the other thing I think too, though, is like, I know for instance, Quinshon Judkins going to Ohio State after being at Ole Miss. I know
Right.
a lot of people, were happy to go and watch him play
Right.
at Ohio State, but I think a lot of people too, they're like, I don't want to watch this guy like go
I
and
know.
do what
Right.
he could have done at my school, that kind of thing. And yeah, people use like Stream East and all that kind of stuff like that are
Bootleg
watching the
sites.
game. Yeah.
So that's not look. So basically, what it's saying is the numbers are any kind of number can be skewed positively or negatively. I don't think you can just solely rely on numbers. People are all caught up in analytics and things. And look, we work with analytics. We want to show customers how many people are watching our stuff and all. I love it. I mean, it's a lot better than it was, but you can't get caught up in it. And by the way, you brought up Netflix, off the subject a little bit. The biggest scam maybe in sports history that's not being talked about is that Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, because they were at the dadgum one of the balls, the inaugural balls together, along with Evander Holyfield, and Mike Tyson was on Jake Paul's shoulders, and they were laughing and cutting up and having a great. That was the biggest pulled off scam in sports history that's not getting talked about. And I don't want to get down a rabbit hole and squirrel my way over to talking about that, but you brought Netflix up, and I just remember seeing them all partying it up together, and I'm thinking they're laughing all the way to the dang bank, man. They suckered everybody in. Oh, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. They had already made a decision on who was going to win that fight, and they just took everybody's money. It's unbelievable.
I mean, that just shows everyone's so money driven. Like,
It's there's so many people out there
that we were just talking about.
Right. Well, they're out there thinking of ways and scams and schemes and crazy promotional things like that that they can make multi-million. I don't blame them. If you can
Right.
go and do it and you've got the name and you could say, I mean, I can see the conversation between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul right now. Hey, man. Hey, look, Do you really care if you lose or not? Is it really that prideful? Everybody knows you're one of the greatest fighters. Does it matter? Hey, you want to make about 70 million a piece? Let's split this. Let's split this pot. Let's get this made up fight. Let's build it up and act like we hate each other. And let's go fight on Netflix for the first time ever and make history. And let's just go cash a big fat check. And then we'll go party after. And that's really what happens. So Justin said it's greed. There's no doubt it's in everything. And I think 16 games for college football season wears you down.
Absolutely.
Look, here's what's going to happen with college football. College football has got to make a decision to either shorten the regular season and or do away with championship games and start the playoffs early, or go to 16 teams, which I know a lot of people don't want to, but I think we know that we're heading that way because they're going to tweak this thing and they're going to do away with that bye week. And these teams that got a bye are going to get a home game. So, look, there's a lot of different things that is going to go into this thing, but they've got to shorten the season back to 11 games and do away with because the championship games don't mean anything anymore. They just don't. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I always thought, and you did, and we all did, it's a big deal to win a conference championship. But, hey, look, does Ohio State care that they lost to Michigan now? Do they care about that? Means nothing to them. And again, that's what some of our people have said from day one. The college football regular season should mean something. All the games should mean something. Well, we're working our way away from that now. Because if you get a 10-2 record, if you lose a couple of those games during the regular season and you're 10-2, you're going to probably make the playoffs now. And so you're going to make that run. And Ohio State, they dropped the Oregon game earlier in the year, and they dropped their last game of the year to Michigan, who wasn't very good all year. They make the playoffs. They have to play a first-round game. They get it at home. They obviously were the best team in the country all year. They had a couple of snafus. In the old system, Faith, they wouldn't have made the playoffs.
Did you see Lane Kiffin's his comment towards it was the end of the season or whatever, and he was like, well, if it's all about the intensity of the season, like I'm just going to make my schedule so easy so that I can get into the playoffs.
Right.
And I mean, I think we saw that with SMU and how some of those teams got handed to them and Miami, they weren't in the
but
playoffs.
they were on the verge.
Right. But all because they had such an easy season.
Right.
And then you go and you play two good teams and you get whooped. And it's like, why did you get your obviously didn't deserve to be in there.
Get your doors blown off. I mean,
right.
So again, it goes back to all this stuff. And I know we haven't even dove into the portal yet, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, which makes all of this even crazier. We do have some more comments coming in. I'm about to get to those, but I do want to talk about Bunkers in Auburn. If you haven't been to Bunkers in downtown Auburn on West Glen, please go to Bunkers because don't do it for me. Don't do it for Faith. Do it for yourself. I mean, that's the happening place to go and hang out with your friends, your family. Great bar, great food, awesome entertainment. Where else can you go and play around the golf virtually in some of these other games while hanging out with your buddies inside and it's 72, 74 degrees in there, and you got all the different drink options that you can have at that bar, and then you got all the great options for food. They just keep bringing it to you out there. I mean, what are you waiting on? I mean, big game in Auburn on Saturday, go to Bunkers before the game if you got tickets, or go to Bunkers after the game. They'll be open after the game. It's a 7:30 tip, but go to Bunkers, man, and hang out. Never know who you're going to see in there. A lot of big time people walk in and out of Bunkers as well. So go check out Bunkers on West Glen in Auburn. Justice said it's the WWE. I agree with that. No, it's all production. It's all entertainment. I mean, if you look up the NFL and you read the description on the NFL, it doesn't say sports league. It says entertainment. And that's really what it is. That's what it's all kind of become. You said 16 games in NIL in its current forms will drive rosters down. Justin said, I like what one conference commissioner said, have the regular season conference champion and 2 and 3 play in the championship game for a chance to get in the playoffs. And that's an option. That's another deal. John Paul agrees with all of us. It's all about the money. The Sawyer says, I agree, cut out conference championship, but there's too much greed amongst conferences. Again, you're not going to turn away a game that's going to be – you're going to have to supplement that with something else because the conferences aren't going to just voluntarily just say, no, don't want that, because the TV rights and all those contracts predicate that they have those games and they get money from it.
I mean, if you think about it with the NFL is all money driven, and they are completely, I don't know if I want to say like rigged or anything like that, but
I feel like it is. It feels like it a lot of times.
Yeah, listening and watching a lot of things, and I'm really starting to get interested in the depths of the NFL. And I mean, with them, you've got to think about who's being talked about the most in the NFL. And obviously you've got the Chiefs. Everyone's talking about Patrick Mahomes and everything like that all the time. So,
exhausted from the Chiefs, by the way.
Right. But the thing is everybody's going and they're watching that game. And so guess what? Why don't you want them in?
Exactly.
In any of that? In there. But the thing I think about with college football that makes it so much more, I don't know if authentic is the right word, but like you had these two teams that they're not watched. They're not super, I mean, like they are big names and everything like that, but like you have no promotion for it and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really, almost make sense at the point of, it doesn't matter to the players how many people are watching it because they're getting paid.
They played for passion. Well, back in the day, college football was, like you just said, it was a pure sport because those players went to school. Number one, they were coming there to get an education, but they were playing for that school and they wanted to run through a brick wall for that school. And that's where that passion and love and
to make it to that next level so they can make that money.
Correct.
At the NFL level.
Exactly.
Now they don't care.
They're making more money in college now. Some of them.
Right. But I'm not saying that they care, like they don't care about the viewerships and everything because that doesn't really affect them that much. But at the same time, why would they? Because they're making so much money right now in college and doing what they're doing. Why, like, I don't understand how the NCAA is not losing money at this point.
Well, college football, the NCAA's cash cows the basketball tournament. They really don't have any control over college football. It's really kind of already a separate entity. It shows
that they don't have any control over
they have
college
no control.
football.
No, they have zero control. They have
no regulations on NIL. The transfer portal gone.
Right.
I mean, they don't have any control over anyone.
So let's talk about this portal thing, Faith. All right. So yesterday, it comes down on another podcast that, and apparently this kind of was flushed out 4 or 5 days ago with a kid from Wisconsin deciding to unenroll and go to Miami. And Wisconsin was trying to prevent him from going to Miami. And basically they come back and it's Xavier Lucas, by the way. And let me just kind of read an excerpt so everybody can kind of catch up. Obviously losing a bunch of antitrust cases, the NCAA, their hands have been tied. They've lost everything. Every time they go to the court system, they lose. So when you listen to all this and you process it, it's the truth. So an excerpt of this article said the latest chunk of chaos comes from the apparent collapse of the transfer portal after Wisconsin refused to allow cornerback Xavier Lucas to enter the portal. He left the school and transferred to Miami. The NCAA, which apparently learned lessons from multiple failed antitrust cases, has thrown the door open for transfers beyond the parameters of the portal. So technically, the portal never had any parameters to begin with. They just said we're going to have these portal windows until somebody bucks the system, like Xavier Lucas. And Xavier Lucas said, look, I see your portal windows, but I'm ready to leave now, and you can't force me to stay at this college, so I'm leaving. And I'm going down here to this other college where I want to be, and I want to play football there. And the NCAA comes back and it says, NCAA rules do not prevent a student athlete from unenrolling from an institution and enrolling at a new institution and competing immediately. So that is a statement from the NCAA. That's a quote from the NCAA that says there's nothing in the rules that can prevent a student athlete from unenrolling from an institution and then enrolling in another institution and playing immediately. So it goes on to say this, Faith. The extreme of this. Let's look at the extreme case, because there's going to be a case that pops up. If you open the door, somebody's going to walk through it. What happens if Ohio State had a player transfer to Notre Dame before Monday night's game that week? If immediately means immediately, could they have played in that game? Well, according to this rule, yes. How about that?
I mean, I think it goes back to every single time that we've talked about, it shows no loyalty to anyone. And I think some people I think have just been waiting for someone to do that.
And he has.
Like you said last night, an employer can leave their job.
They can quit
at any time.
Absolutely.
Now,
so even if you got them on a contract,
the thing is if you sign a contract and
right,
you have to stay somewhere for a year, 2 years
sure,
with your job, and you break that contract, majority of the time, don't you have to pay?
There are repercussions. But guess what you can't do in college right now? Sign a contract. You can't sign a contract. You can't do that right now. According to the rules, you can't beholden. So they're not an employee. They're a student athlete. They can sign a scholarship. They've even watered down the letter of intent. So that really doesn't mean anything anymore. So I don't know what you can hold anybody to anymore right now. Now, if they separate and they decide as a Power Four that players are going to sign contracts with agents, and they're going to have to be beholden. And if you leave that contract, there's going to be things in the contract you have to pay back and all that. That's a different story. But the current state of college football right now, like I had people when they saw that headline come across, they go, oh my God, no more portal. That's awesome. Now you got to stay. I said, no. You're misreading it. It's worse. Now you're saying the portal doesn't even exist, that you can transfer whenever. And Faith, you and I talked about this yesterday. There used to be, and I think there still are, times that you get cut off from when you can transfer to a college or not. You can't just show up in the middle of a semester and enroll.
The thing is, what are you going to have on your transcript? But just a W,
right?
Because you withdrew yourself from the class.
So now does academics not play into the eligibility of playing in college?
Well, we talked about this yesterday too. What about graduate transfers?
I don't know. I mean, it just, and then we got comments pouring in, and there's some great ones. And he brings a good point. Only 4% go to the NFL. We talked about this yesterday. You're setting people up for failure down the line. I told you I talked to an old coach, and I'm not going to say who it was, but he said, we're setting kids up for failure 10 years down the road. Not right now. In the moment, they're living lavish lifestyles. But like the stat just said, majority of them, overwhelming majority of them aren't going to go and play professional sports. So this is going to end. So now if you're smart and you saved your money and you end up graduating from college, that's great. But a lot of them aren't going to do that. And now they're going to go out there and they're used to this lifestyle that they can't sustain anymore. So now what are they going to do? They're going to resort to whatever they got to resort to try to live that lifestyle. We know where that leads. We know what we're talking about here. I don't have to go through it. I mean, you're going to get involved in things that aren't good for you. So I don't know, man. It is absolutely a disaster right now, from the ratings of the college football national championship game to, you can say what all the different elements are and the numbers aren't counted accurately and all that kind of junk. But right now, that's how they count them. And it's the 23rd out of the 27th lowest rated national championship game since they've been counting them since 98, since the BCS era. And then now you got all this crap with the portal and NIL that's so poorly mismanaged. And you got people like all of us and everybody that's watching this and watching other things that love college football that don't see the same product anymore, and they're exhausted from it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you have to sit out for a year after transferring, like in high school? Right? Like if
Talking
you
about sit out a year
in high school, like for sports or whatever.
Yeah, if it's not a bona fide move and if it's within a certain window, yeah.
I think because a lot of people from where I'm from, a lot of people would transfer to this one high school because a lot of people got recruited from there and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people, it wasn't, they had to sit out a full year, and that's just in high school to become eligible to play. And now you're telling me that people can go and transfer.
I just think there's some loopholes, and Kyle brings up a good point. He said, I was wondering about that compete immediately. I don't see how that would work if the semester is almost over. I'm with you, Kyle. I think
you have W's on your transcript.
But again, I mean, there's got to be, so the academic still has to play a part in this, but nobody ever talks about that anymore. Nobody ever talks about student athlete. All we talk about is, hey, I want to get more money through NIL. I want to go play for this team because that's where I want to be now. So it's different on the front side of the semester. All right, Wisconsin, signs this guy or has this kid and he wants to transfer outside of the portal window, but maybe it's still in that first 2-week period of the start of the semester where people can say you can still unenroll and enroll in another school. I worked in colleges for 25 years. There is a time frame that you can drop your classes without a penalty and then go and unenroll, and then you still have time, if that other college still has enrollment open, to go and enroll at that college. Now, it's a shorter window, but maybe that's a thing that we're looking at here in this case. Like I said earlier, I think once you get past a certain point, unless a college makes an exception, which they can, I guess, I don't see how in the world you could do, let's just say hypothetically, halfway through the semester, you decide to get up from Auburn and leave and go to Alabama and then start playing immediately during the season. I don't know how you can pull that off. Now, again, all this is just breaking. This is a new standard, obviously, that's been set by this kid from Wisconsin that's brought this up. This is the first time this has ever happened. Yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with the portal. I don't think the windows matter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions everyone has. There's not a lot of answers at all.
Yeah, when is the last time you've heard of academic ineligible
in high
players?
School?
In anything, in college.
I've literally only heard it in high school. I don't think I've.
Yeah, in high. Oh, you're saying that's all the time you hear it's in high school. Right. Kyle said just because someone is getting paid doesn't mean they don't have loyalty. I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of people that work in the real world that are loyal to their company or whatever. But again, that's really not what we're talking about. He said, look at all the coaches that we've talked about being loyal, and they have always received substantial checks. I'm saying, Kyle, that the majority of these top-rated players, it's not about that anymore. It is about the highest payday. And they will leave your school, a la Caleb Downs, and go to Ohio State for more money. I mean, again, I hate to say it as much as anybody, but Alabama was just playing in a college football semifinal game against Michigan last year with Caleb Downs, and then he leaves and goes to Ohio State right after that. Now, did he make a good decision? Yeah, he won a national title. Quinshon Judkins did the same thing. But they were at two pretty good programs, and they were successful, but they decided to leave to take a better deal. So you can spin it however you want to spin it. But that's how it ended up happening. And more guys that have that caliber talent, you're going to have to court them and get them to stay. All right. So we can say they love Auburn and they love this school and all this kind of stuff. But if you're Cam Coleman, and I'm just throwing this out there as a hypothetical, if you're a top-rated player, and if Cam Coleman comes back this year and has 1,000 yards receiving or 1,200 yards receiving and sets all types of records and is one of the top receivers in the country, which I feel like he can be, I mean, let's just be honest about it. Auburn's going to have to probably pony up to keep him. I think he loves being at Auburn, and I'm speaking for him, which I'm being hypothetical here. But I'm just saying that's just the way of the world. You don't think everybody thought Quinshon Judkins was going to stay at Ole Miss after the first 2 years after he was the guy over there? Nope, he didn't. Ended up going to Ohio State. And look, I'm not blaming him. He got paid more money probably. And guess what he did? He won a national title, just like Caleb Downs did. So it worked out for him. I'm not saying it doesn't work out for people, and I'm not saying that they're not making good decisions. I'm saying that's just outlier cases. Everybody that plays the game, though, has a mentality that can happen for them, and it's not going to. So that's why I think the portal is a temptation over here to the side for a lot of people that don't need it. But now it obviously doesn't matter because you leave whenever you want to leave, Faith.
When you first sent that to me, I texted Brett and I said, Brett, I'm confused. I need you to really explain this to me, because I was like, and I looked it up after because I was like, is this fake? Am I reading something fake right now?
Right,
or like
right.
listening
We
to
all thought
something
that
fake?
too. Thought that as well.
But once you explained it to me, and I mean, it to an extent, it makes sense, like logistically, but
It's the biggest pie. Look, if we thought it was bad prior to
Before?
yesterday, it's worse somehow. Glenn said leaving because I got all F's and school's offering me more money. Hey, why not? I guess all classes transfer now. That never was the case. Look, how many times, this is an Auburn show, for all our Auburn fans, how many times have we lost a player because of some kind of stupid little hitch in something, and we've had to go through compliance and we've had to do all this, and he's not going to make it into school because of this? I mean, just recently, I think the Grayson McCall kid from Coastal Carolina didn't come to Auburn because his degree didn't transfer to Auburn. Do you think that's holding up anybody now? Do you think we'll ever hear that again? I mean, if we do, we're the only ones policing it. And I'm not going to say which coach, but I witnessed this past year. And I'm not going to tell you which player it was. But there was a particular Auburn coach on the phone with our academic office for all day trying to get this one kid into school that was transferring from another school. So I don't know if it's still Auburn trying to just be hard about it and all this kind of stuff. But I looked at him and I said, is it this hard everywhere else? And he said, I don't think so. And I'm thinking to myself, all of the things that are going on in the world of college now and how easily people move from one place to the next, are we the only school still policing this stuff? Are we? I mean, look, I'll applaud us if we're trying to do it right, but if everybody else is just out here freelancing it and doing it however they want to do it, we're kind of hurting ourselves, aren't we?
There's got to be a regulation nationally, like everywhere. I mean, it can't just be some people are playing by the rules, some aren't. And I mean, I know it's not equal everywhere. I know that. I know
Right.
people have been, there's been plenty of things, but like in this whole thing, there's got to be something that is just the ground rules.
From who? That's a good place to start.
That's not my
me and you. You want to set the ground rules, Faith?
no, because then everyone's gonna just hate you. So
I think. Look, we could talk about this every single day, and I don't know what's going to happen today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, it seems like every time we think it's gotten to a point it can't get worse, it does.
I have done 4 projects throughout my entire college 3.5 years, and all on the NIL. And then my last one was the NIL and the transfer portal. Has it negatively impacted or positively impacted college football? And just by talking to some of those athletes, you can, and it's funny that Glenn said playing by the rules, roll tide. They're one of the players I interviewed from Alabama, quality kid who was like, when I went down to my recruiting, I never talked about any money or anything like that. He's still there, hasn't touched the field, or I guess he's been on the field a few times, but like they've all said that they think, not all of them, a few of them said that college football has now been ruined by these things. And I think that is.
Don't you think it's creating dissension in the locker room too? Some of them.
So many people. Well, I talked to an offensive lineman, and they're not getting paid the way that the quarterbacks are getting paid, but they're helping set the quarterback up.
I talked to somebody yesterday, and I'm not going to say what team it is. I know everybody goes, well, man, that's just great. You don't say who it is. But I'm not going to divulge the name. I'm just not. But it's coming from the horse's mouth that some of these kids that are coming into these programs out of high school, and they think they're holier than thou, and they're walking around acting like they're owed all this stuff. And the team, the players that are already there are like, don't like the dude.
You haven't stepped foot on the field.
He's putting out a bad vibe. Don't like the guy. He ain't trying to mesh with us. He thinks he's owed everything. He's walking around it. Look, that's what we're creating. That's what we're creating. When I say we, the media, the coaches, all of the things that go into rating these players and putting them up on a pedestal. And I know it just didn't start. I know people are going, well, they've been rating players for years. They have. But it's to a level now where when you're paying them, it's hard when a kid's been paid $3 million. I'm just going to throw a random number out there. And he's in high school and he's coming into the college, and they're like, and you've been told you're all this and we got to have you, not to walk in the room and think, I'm the man.
Maybe that's why Riley Leonard's mom would text him and say, you suck every day before his game. I think you hear very few people out of everybody that is getting paid about how they give back to their community, how they give back to their family. You're really not hearing it at all. And so that's when there's a lot of people that are like, oh, the NIL is good and everything. Like people are.
You hear rare cases. You hear rare things.
So incredibly rare out of how many people are actually getting paid.
A lot.
And how much they're getting paid to is when it's like, okay, like that's literally 1 out of 52 guys.
Right. It is. I mean, Jim said the portal's not needed anymore. That's basically what we've been saying. I mean, that's the whole gist of this conversation. The portal obviously is irrelevant now. And it's because the kid from Wisconsin said, hey, hold my beer for a second. I'm about to show y'all how useful this portal window is. So, again, it's a made-up thing to try to manage the game. But at the end of the day, it really has no teeth. So you can't beholden anybody to it. Now, again, the schools can play the police officer. They can say, you can't, look, we've already started. We're 4 weeks into the semester, and we can't accept you transferring in because you've already missed so many weeks of class and blah, blah, blah. Unless they go, well, did you attend the class at that particular school for 4 weeks? Okay, well, then we'll just count that, and now you can come on. I mean, are they going to start making exceptions? Will these athletic departments start putting pressure on the school to do that? I mean, I think they probably already are doing that. Hey, we got to have this kid. He wants to leave and we want him and all this kind of stuff. I can see all those conversations going on. Guess what? I've been around those conversations. I've been around conversations trying to get a kid into school past the window of time that we say that we're going to allow a kid to get in school. I'm just saying from personal experience. Have I watched exceptions been made? Yeah, I have. I sure have. And it was way before all this. And so now you're adding all this money and this big time, notoriety to all of it. You better believe there are going to be exceptions being made. So I don't even know what polices what anymore. That from the academic side of the college to the athletic side, because usually both operate in silos. I don't know, Faith. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it keeps our podcast interesting for sure.
It makes me feel stupid.
It makes you feel stupid.
I just don't understand. And I feel like
I don't think anybody understands.
I just feel like I think so differently than some of these kids and some of just, I don't know.
Well, again, I think we say this as a disclaimer all the time. This is not about wanting kids not to make money and be paid for their talents. I think that's what makes the United States so good. If you want to go out and work your tail off and God blesses you with talent, you should be able to take advantage of that talent to your benefit and your family's benefit. I have no problem with that. But we have a hierarchy of the reason there's a reason you start in kindergarten and you go to first grade and then to second and then to third. And as you grow, you learn more about life. And then you get to certain points. And there's a reason that somebody that I'm not saying they're not outlier cases, but there's a reason, Faith, when you leave college, you don't walk into a company and be hired as the CEO.
I haven't proven myself, have I?
Do what?
I haven't proven myself, have I?
Right. That's what I'm saying. What have you done? So what's the difference? Like, so in high school, you say, well, I've got film. This kid's great. Hadn't played it down over here. So why are we giving them all of this stuff before they've proven? Like, there are ways to still make great money in college, but do it on a common sense level.
Well, okay, what Sawyer's just said,
yep.
What kind of coaches can and can't handle it, and how Saban got out because it's a different mentality and attitude among players now.
Right.
What do you think Kirby Smart's doing? Why do you think all of his guys have all those fast cars and then they're going out and getting reckless driving and DUIs?
Got no control.
He doesn't have control over any of those boys. You know how many cars a lot of those boys have? They have like 3 or 4.
Like $100,000+ cars. Not talking about just a normal car. I'm talking about $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 cars.
You're telling me that first of all, they have been in the spotlight of car accidents and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You're telling me that you have not been able to get a hold on your athletes after one of them died and someone that worked on the staff
in the recruiting. Yeah. The girl.
Yep. You're telling me that you haven't been able to get a grip on any of them?
And they still just keep rolling arrest
after arrest. How many times on ESPN do you get that notification for you to sit there and think, I don't have.
So what is he going to do about it? What's he going to do?
But I think what Sawyer's was saying was when Nick Saban was.
They're getting exhausted.
When Nick Saban was, you did not see any of those boys that were doing any.
When I saw Ryan Day after the golf cart incident, after he was almost mutilated by the girl driving the golf cart, I didn't see a guy that was all excited about winning a national championship. Now, I think he was. I think the guy was like, I'm glad that's over. And you know what? A few weeks ago, my butt was on the hot seat and everybody was ready to run me out of town. And now I've finally gotten over this hurdle of winning a national title at Ohio State. I had all the pressure because everybody said before the season, with what Ohio State spent on that roster, it was national championship or bust for Ryan Day. And then when he lost to Michigan for the 4th straight year, they had really had enough. And they were like, okay, it's game by game in the playoffs. And if this dude loses, I want him out of here. And you had Kirk Herbstreit, you had Nick Saban, and everybody saying Ohio State fans are stupid for wanting Ryan Day to be fired because this guy's busting his rear end. He's the one that built the roster, and he's winning games at an unreal rate, and y'all are ready to run him out of town. You got unrealistic expectations. I saw a guy walking down that tunnel going, I'm glad that crap's over, and I may take a job in the NFL as soon as somebody offers it to me. So I told you yesterday, I said, when we were going down the way too early list in Ohio State's preseason #1, and they got all these players coming back, I said the key one to come back is Ryan Day going to come back? And we'll see. He may come back. He may feel, hey, like he's untouchable now that he's won that national title. He's got the pressure off of him. But I also think I saw a guy that looked like, I'm ready to move on. And you saw Jim Harbaugh do it. Jim Harbaugh got out of Michigan after winning a national title and went back to where he's comfortable in the NFL. And they just have, I never thought I'd say it, they just have more control up there. Coaches have more control. They know their players are signed to contracts. They know they can't leave in the middle of the night. And they know they already get paid all this money. Everything's kind of set in stone. They don't have all these unknown variables that they have to worry about all the time.
I mean,
so you're going to lose all these great coaches to the NFL if they get a shot. I'm just telling you. I think Kirby will take a shot. I thought Kirby was going to take the Falcons job last year. A lot of people felt like that, Faith.
I have nothing to say about Kirby Smart. I mean,
I know you don't like the Bulldogs. I don't either. So I know at the end of the day, we don't really care. So great comments, guys. A lot of comments coming in, and we appreciate it. Look, this is wild stuff. I know we were supposed to talk about some more players today, Faith. Everybody's just going to have to tune us in tomorrow because we're going to talk about those tomorrow. So we will be back. All right, so I do want to do a little programming note. I have a meeting in the morning, so we won't be on at our normal time. So we if your schedule allows, Faith, I haven't even talked to Faith about. We're talking about this real time, y'all. We're talking about our schedule real time with you, so we can tell you if it works out for you, Faith. We'll try to go at 9 o'clock tomorrow instead of 8.
Good with me.
Okay,
Let's sleep in an extra hour.
Look at there. See, it's the gift that keeps on giving, right? 9 o'clock tomorrow will be around the time we come on the air for our Auburn Blitz podcast tomorrow. I have a meeting. I can't miss it. Got to go. Got stuff that you got to get done. So, and then maybe have some news after that meeting. We'll see. We'll kind of keep everybody on the edge of their seat for that one. But we'll be back with you tomorrow at 9. But Faith, we will talk about, that's what we'll focus on tomorrow is this junior list that's coming in, the juniors that'll be coming in on Saturday. And, I'm going
to go by campus today and see, I guess today, and see if there's actually people on there, drive around the Neville Arena. And
they're already out there. They're camping.
Well, we got school canceled today, or they got classes canceled.
Right. Don't mean that they're canceling camp.
I know. Well, they also sent an email saying that they're not allowed to camp out because of the weather. So that's why I want to go
okay.
to see if anyone's actually.
You're gonna have to send me a picture or video of that.
I will.
The Sawyer said they just found this channel, enjoyed it. Hey, thank you, appreciate it so much. So many more of you are finding us every single day. I had somebody stop me in a restaurant last night, Faith, and wanted me to say welcome aboard to you. Glad that you're on with us, and glad to see our podcast growing, and loved what we talked about and all that stuff. Kyle said, so excited for Auburn this weekend. I'm hoping a great win, 2 commitments. Yeah, it's an exciting weekend. But going back, we appreciate everybody, don't we, Faith, that yes. are finding us and helping us grow, and all of you out there make what we do so much fun and the reason why we do it. And I said it yesterday, when we get to 600, make sure I don't have this upside down. We're going to give away more of these Auburn Blitz shirts, Auburn Blitz hats. We got them in multiple colors. I've already given a couple away. I'm telling you, this is the way to go. And Jim said, yes, tune in today at 12, the Auburn Blitz TV show, where it all started. We'll be on at noon today. Jim and Andy will be on. They'll be talking more about this and a lot of other things that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover here on the podcast this morning, Faith. So just glad to have everybody part of the program. Again, go out there and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please help us grow. When we get to 600 every time we hit that 100 mark, 600, 700, 800, we got to 500 in 2 months, which is crazy, really, really fast. And so we want to get to 600 so we can give some more stuff away. But go out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Spread the word. Tell all your Auburn buddies to go out and subscribe as well. We keep it real here. We don't claim to know everything. We do know a lot of things, but we keep it real. And we're not always going to sugarcoat things. If it's crap, we're going to call it crap. I hate to be that way, but that's just part of it. We don't want to look when you've lost for 4 consecutive years. It's hard to paint a picture of everything's rosy. I think that causes you to lose a lot more credibility if you're painting that picture. So, we know others do, but we're not all sunshine and rainbows here. Although Faith has a gorgeous smile and she's radiating light over there, we will bring up the bad too, and we'll talk about it. We're not afraid to. So, some more of our sponsors, Faith. Again, want to thank Scout Program Management, your full construction management firm in Birmingham. They specialize in educational projects. They got a lot of schools they're working on and helping with right now. A lot of projects about to go to bid. Talked to them just the other day, and man, their business is doing great. So if you're in a educational entity and you're looking at renovating a school or a building or a property or building a new school, they're the ones to call on. They'll take you from the start to finish. Also, Sensa-Green for air that is cool and clean. Call on Sensa-Green. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. So if you need a new unit, they're giving away money, basically, saving you thousands of dollars, giving you a rebate on new carrier units and installation. So make sure you call on Sensa-Green there. And, of course, Bunkers in downtown Auburn on West Glen. What a great place to go and hang out. Great food, great environment. Go and play you some golf. Me and Faith are going to end up in Bunkers one day. I'm going to see how good her game really is.
You'd be surprised.
Just make sure she doesn't hit it through the restaurant into the bar where all the glass is, and we'll be doing fine. So,
yeah, we'll see.
That's right. All right, folks, it's been a great time. Faith, hope you have a great rest of the day. Got to give us an update on the camping situation. As soon as they give the all clear, I bet it's going to be a mad rush, Woodstockish type rush with all these tents and stuff running out there to try to stay
I wouldn't be
clean.
surprised if there's still people, regardless of them saying that they weren't allowed to. So I will.
They're kind of hovering around. Like, you can say you can't camp out, but I bet there's people hovering around, kind of it's kind of mingling, loitering, I guess you would call it.
Just looking.
Yes. Hey, we're just going to hang out right here. And then when they give the all clear, there they are. They're already on the spot. So, all right, everybody, enjoyed the podcast this morning. Again, tune in at lunch for the Auburn Blitz TV show, and we will see you again tomorrow morning around 9. We'll be on at 9 o'clock tomorrow for the Auburn Blitz podcast. Have a great day, everybody. War Eagle.
War Eagle.